So with respect out of time, all right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Dalles Chamber Community Affairs. Today, our guest is Nina Carlson with Northwest Natural and Tonya Brumley with Northwest Natural. They'll be doing a presentation here shortly, but before they begin, let's go around the room and introduce ourselves so they know that who is here. So we're going to start with Phil Brady in my upper corner.
Good morning, Phil Brady, Wasco County Commissioner. I might have an update on some goings on regarding Friends of the Gorge and Wasco County at the end of, if there's time, but if you can also wait till later.
Perfect. Thank you. Scott.
Good morning, everyone. Scott McKay, Community Liaison for Circles of Care, which we connect volunteers with older adults who need some kind of periodic support.
Great. Thank you. Bill.
Good morning, everybody. I'm with the North Central Public Health District Board and also the Six Rivers Dispute Resolution Board. And good morning. Thanks.
Thank you. Brian.
Brian Tuck, retired. Good morning.
David Peters.
Good morning, everybody. Dave Peters, Mid-Columbia Housing Authority, Columbia Cascade Housing. No big updates. We're just working on a lot of projects. We're actually probably going to be doubling the number of units we have, meeting apartments, to another 400, more than 400 in the next year to two. So things are moving here. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Tom.
Tom Pemberthy. I'm the marketing director for Columbia Gorge Community College.
Great. Dan.
Dan Spots, Economic Development Officer with the City of the Dalles, and we are preparing documentation for a $500,000 grant that we're receiving from the Environmental Protection Agency to conduct assessment and limited cleanup of old brownfield sites around town. These are things like underground storage tanks and asbestos in old buildings. That grant will take effect in October.
Great. Thank you. Rob.
Good morning, Rob Garrett, Mid-Columbia Senior Center. Just finished our parking lot sale last weekend and trying to catch up from that. I'm not sure what's going on next. I'm not sure anything is. I can't remember, but something will be. You can bet on that.
I bet you if you go to the calendar, you'll figure out what you're doing next.
I don't even want to look at it.
I don't blame you. Anna, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. Sorry, my voice. I'm just getting over a flu. Ana Rivera. I own a childcare and a preschool.
Perfect. Thank you for being here. It's great to see you. So with that, I am going to turn this over. The chamber has a lot going on. We'll just say, go to the community calendar. You'll see all that's happening for us. It's on thedalleschamber.com. But so I want to bring on our guests. So Nina and Tonya, I'm going to turn it over to you. And I am going to go ahead and hit share screen. Are you ready for me to do that? Okay. Let me make sure I have the right. Okay. Hopefully, can you guys see the screen okay?
It looks like it shows 1 and 2. And can you get it to show as a single slide at a time?
Let me look at a second. Just a second. Let me try this over again.
While you're doing that, Lisa, I just want to remind everybody, in case we run out of time at the end, that United Way has their fundraiser tomorrow night over at Bargeway Pub to benefit the nonprofits in the Gorge. This is one of our fundraisers. Northwest Natural and many other local companies are sponsors of that. And the band is going to be an AC/DC tribute band called Hell's Bells. It's an all-woman band. So we invite you to come over tomorrow night at Bargeway Pub, 5:30 is when the doors open, and you can get tickets at the chamber or down at the pub. So it's definitely going to be a good evening. But with that, I want to introduce you guys all to Nina Carlson. So I'm Tonya Brumley, as all of you know. I work out of the Columbia Gorge, and I'm the community affairs manager for the region for the 4 counties in the Gorge. And Nina Carlson is one of our great government affairs specialists, and she is much more adept at these presentations and familiar with giving them to many of the public entities. And so she should hopefully have most of the answers to your questions. So with that, Nina, thanks for thanks for participating and sharing all your knowledge with us today.
So before you start, Tonya, is it
Well-
showing just one slide now?
It is.
Okay, perfect.
Well, thank you all for coming here to listen to this, and I hope I will keep you awake, even though you may not be totally fueled by coffee. But I really appreciate you coming and learning and us having a discussion. That's the one thing I really would like this to be. Feel free to put something in the chat, raise your hand, just shout it out. I'm pretty informal about things like that. I want this to be as conversational as possible, and I want you to get the information you need. And I also want Dan Spatz to, read the phone book to me, because he has the best voice ever. I'm like, that's a voice for radio. Darn it. That was nice to hear this morning. Okay. So with that, I'm Nina, as Tonya said, and I do government affairs and economic development for the company. And a lot of that work is around climate policy and climate action plans and how those intersect with the runnings of our jurisdictions and the economic development and our customers and their energy needs. So with that, we'll go to our first slide.
And maybe. There we go.
Or we can just look at this and be zen.
Is it there?
Not quite yet. I don't see it yet.
Mine's showing.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. So before I go too far into kind of some of where we're at policy wise, I like to give people a starting point of who Northwest Natural is and how many people we serve and the kind of energy we provide. So it says it all here. We serve about 2.5 million people, almost half the state's population in 140 counties, all the way out to the gorge, to the coast in Astoria, down the coast past Newport, the valley, and even to Coos Bay. We don't cross the Cascades, but with that, our system is probably one of the tightest, most modern systems, meaning we have no bare steel or cast iron. We're all poly or coated steel, which is important in a minute when we talk about some of the new technologies. And on any given day, we provide about 74% of the heat and space and water heating needs for that 2.5 million folks. And on that cold morning, think about when the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining. And it's, our customers it's 5 a.m. and it's, 22 degrees outside. We could be providing up to 90% of the energy needs for residential space and water heat in our customer territory. So that's a lot. And the one thing people like, oh, climate change and fossil fuels and, we have to do our part. That's all true. But I want people to understand the natural gas system is providing that much energy, and our customers' carbon footprint is between 5 and 6% of the state's greenhouse gas emissions. So that's a pretty big bang for your buck. Can we do more? Yes. Will we do more? Absolutely. But starting place, that's a lot of energy for a fairly modest footprint. And one thing I like to kind of have folks think about is our customers and our usage is not the largest usage in the state. There's a very large electric provider in our state that actually uses more natural gas than we do on any given day. So that's something to kind of think about. All right, we'll go to the next slide if you don't mind. Okay, so just to kind of put it out there, our view on climate change, we're not here to quibble or climate deny or climate delay. We believe climate change is an issue and it needs to be addressed. But we also feel that you're going to need two systems, both the electric and the gas system, working together, both decarbonizing to safely, reliably, affordably meet our energy needs and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. We are fully committed to having a carbon neutral pipeline, hopefully by 2050. And we know that there are no technical barriers to really get there. We know that coal plants are closing and a lot of natural gas is being used for power generation, and more is going to be needed. And a lot of people think, well, don't you just go ahead and clean the grid and electrify everything? And while that sounds really great, I think most of you have been around long enough to know that if it was easy and cheap, it would already be done. And the key thing a lot of people think about, oh, we'll just get rid of natural gas and we'll turn everything over to electric equipment. And I like to kind of set the stage of what that looks like. For with hydro, and you guys really know what hydro looks like, to with the most high energy efficient equipment, electric equipment, if you replaced all the gas stuff out there with super high efficiency, you'd have to double the hydro we have. With average efficiency, you'd have to triple it. And I think we all know that we are not building any more dams in this state going forward. So that's really an important thing to think about. And if you were to, again, replace all the gas equipment with electric equipment, you'd have to take Multnomah County and completely cover it with solar panels, because that's the key thing. You aren't just building for any given day. You have to build the system to be able to respond for peak. And with wind and solar, a lot of times you can't just put one solar panel and expect it to work all the time. You have to build in increments of that, up to 5 times as much as you would need on any given day. And that's the key thing. You have to be able to serve that peak load. And that's where the gas system really shines. So any questions on any of that? Okay, on we go.
Well, just one question. A piece of the electric demand that it needs to be added in here is the data centers. The data centers, they're as much as transportation going ahead. But go ahead. You're part of the solution there too.
Phil, we can't even talk about data centers because they make me twitch.
Yeah.
In fact, in the region that I cover, we have had data centers contact us to say, how about we build our own electrical generation plant? You supply us the gas and we'll generate on site for a data center. And I mean, we don't even know how to wrap our heads around what that looks like. So yeah, data centers, that's going to be, in addition to the cars and other things, data centers are going to be a huge, both land suck and energy suck. And we're going to have to, as a state, figure out how we want to address them. So yeah, the data centers are a whole, it's like AI on steroids.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because you guys in particular are seeing that, and lots of communities that have not seen anything like that are now faced with it all of a sudden. And there's not just 1 or 2 issues, there's a lot of issues around them. And I guess here's the other thing, and this is really kind of intrinsic in all of our work, is we're addressing climate change, we're addressing the energy burden, we're addressing all of these things, but it's a triple bottom line kind of perspective lens that we put on all of this. We want people to be able not to have to choose between their groceries and their energy bills. We want them to feel confident that when they go to turn their gas stove on, or their take a bath, or turn up their thermostat, that energy is available to them. So the equity part is important. The environment part is important. We have to every day think about how can we use less, use it more efficiently, and then also drive down those emissions by adding renewables and new technologies. And the third thing is, our customers have invested a lot in our system. I think it's like 14,000 miles of pipe in our service territory alone. And it's important that we don't just abandon that really great asset, that we leverage that tight modern system to do these things, so we aren't throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We're working on those environmental goals while we're protecting people's investment and the costs, and mindful of the costs of their energy. So any thoughts there? Okay, on we go. Now we're going to get into the good stuff. You've gotten the backdrop. It's now time to get exciting. Okay, and the key thing, this is my last little bit of backdrop, but what the things I'm talking about, carbon neutral pipeline, all this kind of stuff sounds crazy for a gas utility to be talking about. But one thing I'm really proud about Northwest Natural is we've been an innovator and a change maker as a utility, which are usually not known to be like on the cutting edge of doing crazy things. We've been doing that all along. We first started in the 1890s or 60s in doing lighting in Portland. With the arrival of the Intermountain Pipeline and the Williams Pipeline, we were able to branch out and provide gas to homes, adding fireplaces and stoves and things like that. In the 2000s, we finished the modernization of our system that I've spoke about. We were one of the first utilities in the nation to do decoupling. And what that means is we actually, as a company, don't make a profit on the gas that we sell to you. We have gas buyers who go out on the market every day and are trying to find the best pricing for the gas that our customers need. We're able to share those prices with you. We actually make money on the infrastructure in the ground, not the commodity. And so if we're able to buy it more efficiently, we pass those savings on to our customers. And we're one of the first companies to have a carbon offset program in smart energy, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. And we've modernized that even and created some additional offerings with that. And right now we have a Vision 2050, which is our carbon neutrality goal, and that's including some new technologies, renewable natural gas, renewable hydrogen, to really deeply decarbonize that 5% of the greenhouse gases that are from the use of our product by our customers. So we'll go ahead. Okay, so the exciting thing is we're already off on this track. Let's see here, probably 2018, put together a savings goal of 30% carbon reduction. And in 2021, we were already ahead of that. In 2021, we saved almost 500,000 metric tons of carbon through various programs, energy efficiency being one. And that's where that decoupling is really important. It basically puts us on the same side of the table with our customers. We can work with them to help them have the most efficient, highly functioning, newest technology equipment in their homes, because we don't have to decarbonize the molecule of gas that our customers don't need. So we want them to continue to use our product. People love our product, but we want them to use it efficiently, and that's pretty important. And again, another thing that isn't seen every day, you may hear about fugitive methane emissions. That's a big thing people are concerned about, and they should be, because what that's talking about is anything that escapes from the wellhead before it's used at the burner tip. And it's really important that we focus on that whole supply chain, because methane is more carbon intensive. It's a more potent greenhouse gas, about 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide alone. And so it's important to keep from extraction out of the ground to your burner tip, that we keep that in the pipe until we're ready to use it. And we really focus on that. We're part of a consortium called One Future, and it's a best practices group, and that's where we try and buy all of our methane from the folks that are in One Future, because they're using best practices, keeping their fugitive emissions below 1%. In fact, in the last, I think, 3 years, it's been below 0.5%. And if you, some of the statistics that you might see quoted from other places are saying, oh, there's 10% fugitive methane emissions. Well, we're under 1%. Heck, we might be under 0.5%. So it's things like that. It's working on every little thing every day. Really important to help get these to make those savings goals that we need. It's little things every day, and it's long-term planning on the big things. Any thoughts there?
No, so actually, I'm not aware too much natural gas wells in the Northwest. Am I right that most of them are natural gas is coming from mid-continent?
It's coming. Tonya just asked me to take off my video because I'm kind of glitchy. If that's okay with you guys, you'll hear my voice.
Yep.
Most of our gas comes from British Columbia, a little bit from the Colorado region. So yes, we do not. Northwest Natural, there may be one company that's got a well or two. We're not connected with them. Northwest Natural is not a producer. However, we do have older wells that are empty, shall we say, and we are able to use those for storage. And that's a really important thing, because it allows us to purchase gas when there's too much, and we're able to pass those savings on to our customers. And it's a nice reliability thing. This last year, there was a little bit of a hiccup in the system up north, and we were able to basically almost be self-sufficient for a bit using our storage wells. And that's really an important resiliency and a peak or price shaving asset that we have here, which is a good thing.
So let me follow up then. I'm all, Tonya will attest here. I'm a champion here of Northwest Natural. So I'm not trying to drill down issues, but
No, that's good. That's good.
So are you able then to say verify that the production over there in British Columbia and elsewhere, that is the methane that's escaping from those wells is part of your calculation of methane loss?
Absolutely. We have very high EPA reporting standards. We have our folks that are on our pipeline integrity and in our gas buying. This is what they do all day, because if we are not accountable for it today, we will be. And that's why it was important for us to invest in this one future group that is researching best practices and making sure that we use them.
Thank you. Okay. Keep going. We got to more.
All right.
Okay, it's Brian.
Right.
This question, you mentioned energy efficiency. What specific things are you doing?
Two of the things that I think are most important, we have a program where our techs come in every year for free and do an equipment check. And the reason that's important, they aren't there to fix things, but they're there to make sure that all of your equipment is running most efficiently as possible. And if it's not, then they can recommend some contractors that can come in and work on those things, because we want that equipment be working at its top level, so people aren't using more than they need, and people and everything is safe. So that's one thing, making sure equipment is being used properly and it's in good working order. And then the second thing, we have lots of incentives that help people retrofit. Like, for instance, let's say get rid of a inefficient or an unrated wood stove and put in a gas fireplace insert. Additionally, we have incentives on highest efficiency furnaces. And there's a slide here at the end talking a little bit about new technologies. And that's the other thing. We work with the Gas Technology Institute to bring forth new technologies into the market, to test them and then to help them scale in the market. And one of those things, for instance, would be gas-fired heat pumps. And a typical gas furnace is between 95 and 98% efficiency. These gas-fired heat pumps and heat pump hot water heaters have the efficiency of 120. So they're really great on that. And additionally, right now we're working on a new tariff with the Utility Commission in our current rate case that allows builders, if they want to put in a heat pump with a gas backup or some gas resiliency things, that they can maximize their incentives to keep the prices down on those sorts of things. So does that help? Okay, on we go. Now we call this kind of our Sim City slide. And basically when I say that is, in the past, it was the interstate pipeline went to the head gate and then we sent it from there to people's houses. That's really not what we're going to see in the future. We're going to have a much more interconnected, bifurcated kind of system. You're going to see, this is how we see we're going to reach those decarbonization goals. Again, starts with deep energy efficiency. Don't have to decarbonize if we're not using that. But you're going to have instead of just the interstate pipeline, you're going to see things like dairy farms and your wastewater treatment plant and biomass being used to create methane, because anything that decomposes releases methane, and we can clean that and put that on our system. Additionally, the power grid, when there is excess renewable electricity, think in spring, we can use that excess power to do electrolysis, basically taking electricity and breaking apart water molecules and creating hydrogen. Hydrogen can be used for fuel cells for cars. for aviation, all sorts of things like that. So it's going to be a much more interconnected scenario here. And Dan, I see you've got a question.
Dan, you're muted.
Okay, I've been doing Zoom for how many years now, and I still forget that. I'm sorry.
It's before 8. You're okay.
Okay, I appreciate that, Hannah. So this slide answers one of my questions. I would like to build on it, though, in talking about electrolysis with wind and solar. We have new solar coming into to Wasco County now. First question, can you tell me whether there are any tests, on-site tests involved with either wind or solar anywhere in the Eastern Columbia Gorge? And then second, I know that you've been having some early discussions with a carbon sequestration firm that we have in the Dalles called 280 Earth, and I was just curious to see whether there are any updates on that discussion. And if not,
there are a lot of updates on hydrogen. If we can hold that for 2 slides, we'll go into a lot of the and I will say on the 280 Earth part, I don't have as much information on that as possible, but I can get you more information. But we'll hold those questions because we're going to break down the whole hydrogen thing, because it's definitely, there's a few layers to that onion. So on we go. We got a couple more slides.
I'm going to back you up at 2 here on the electrolysis coming from wind and solar. The difficulty there I see is if we're expecting surplus wind and solar, that's going to be an intermittent supply, which is going to create an economic bottleneck. You're going to have an expensive electrolyzer only online part-time.
And I will say this, there are, as with anything else, and this slide will kind of talks about it, there are times where some of these projects have to be at a certain scale for them to make sense. The nice thing about that the electrolyzers and the renewable energy, if the grid is full, there's no point. I mean, it can't take any more. And our modern pipeline system, which we'll talk about with hydrogen in a minute, our modern pipeline system allows you to, where you'd have to just either de-energize those panels or idle those turbines, it allows you to take advantage of that electricity and create that hydrogen and store it for a time that you need it. Agreed, there are market forces that make some projects pencil out better than others. We're hoping as projects are more ubiquitous that things will scale, the prices will come down. And as you've seen with wind and solar, and the good sign for that is that with this RNG, just so we know, renewable natural gas comes from the decomposing of carbon-based substances. So anything that has carbon in it, as it breaks down, it's going to release methane. Think of dairy lagoons, think of wastewater treatment plants, think of landfills. When I first started doing these presentations, I think there were 113 projects. Now, this slide is even out of date. I believe there's over 800 projects in the United States. And one thing I will say about America, if with our market based system, if something works out and it pencils out, you're going to end up seeing more of it. And this is proof right here that these RNG projects are not just some flash in the pan. They actually are scalable, and it's something that isn't just a niche kind of a thing. And in fact, in 2017, Oregon Department of Energy did a technical potential study of our state for RNG, and they determined there was about 48 billion cubic feet of RNG that could be produced every year in the state of Oregon. And for context, our customers use about 50 billion cubic feet per year. So to me, that also shows that, are we going to get all of that RNG? No, because some of it's going to be too far out. It's not going to make market sense to be able to aggregate it and collect that RNG. But if we got half of it, that could be half of our carbon footprint drastically reduced. And there are more and more of these projects happening. So the nice thing is RNG, same molecule as a conventionally sourced methane molecule, and you don't need to do any changing out of equipment or burner tips or anything. It's a straight across exchange. And another thing is, we all know that there's always going to be waste and there's always going to be landfill gas and things like that. So we know that this is kind of a local and resilient supply. Thoughts on that? Anyone? Questions? On we go. We're getting close, Dan. I promise we're coming to that hydrogen. There we go. So regarding hydrogen, some people don't love this, but one way to think about hydrogen is in a rainbow of colors. With green hydrogen being the end all be all, holy grail, because it is really carbon-free energy. And that's basically taking that excess renewable energy from the grid, solar and water, at a time that the grid can't take it. You use that instead to break the water molecules apart, taking those hydrogen atoms and being able to put them on our pipe. We have done some projects in our Sherwood Resource Center, and we've been able to heat that with a blend of up to 20% hydrogen. And our guy who is in charge of it, he gave a really good term. This hydrogen blending thing, it's not a proof of concept project for us, because this has been being used for instance, in Hawaii, up to 20% for over a decade, if not longer. And so it's basically a proof of comfort. And we've been doing that pilot in our facility to make sure that all of our testing equipment works properly with the mix of hydrogen, to make sure that there aren't any unforeseen things that the hydrogen blend would do to our pipe or any of our valves or anything like that. And we have in our area where we train our techs, we have kind of a timeline or time capsule of all sorts of different appliances throughout the decades. And we're able to run the hydrogen blend there to make sure it doesn't matter if you still have your 1982 gas hot water heater, that it doesn't have any effects, just as it wouldn't have any effects on your brand new gas hot water heater. So the hydrogen thing, that is coming. Now, green hydrogen, I'm going to be honest, going to be very expensive for a long time. However, there are other ways to capture hydrogen, and two of the ways that we're working on, there's kind of two things that we call blue hydrogen, which is basically where you go ahead and store the CO2 from the methane when you break apart the methane molecule, you store the CO2 underground. That's one way. One thing that we're looking at, but with a couple companies that's really encouraging, is what we're calling turquoise hydrogen. You're still taking a methane molecule and breaking it apart, taking the hydrogen and using that in our system. But instead of having a CO2 gaseous product that's our byproduct, you are going to get something like a carbon black. So think graphite from your pencil. That's how the carbon comes out from this process. And the nice thing about that is that's much more easily sequestered, perhaps in paving, and it can be used as a colorant, it can be used in tires, different things like that. And so we're working with 2 or 3 different folks, different companies, to figure out which is most cost effective, what are the unintended consequences, what are, just working through all the things to figure out which of these technologies, or are all of them great, and what ones can we help scale more.
Nina?
Any question? And yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, so the Northwest Natural part of this sequence chain here is from steps 3 and on, where because your business is in the delivery, and there's another kink in the system of when it comes to green hydrogen, and it's a policy issue, a federal policy issue, that if it's electricity coming off the grid, the federal government is requiring that grid be new renewable, and added an extra kink to it for us in the Northwest, that they don't consider our legacy hydro projects as new renewable energy. So some of the companies I'm thinking of, Obsidian, are stuck. They can't use the electricity off our grid, even though it's mostly hydropower.
There are a lot of policy concerns, and I have much more I have a lot of opinions about those policy concerns. I think, frankly, and this is Nina, not Northwest Natural saying this, I think, frankly, people are being very Pollyanna-ish and the good being the enemy of the, or the great being the enemy of the good on this. And we're going to need to look at all of the things if we really are serious about decarbonization, both short term and in a long term thing. We're going to have to try things and loosen things up a little bit to, at least right now, while we're trying to get some of this stuff to scale, if we're serious about really decarbonizing. I still think it's very ideologically driven, and people are able to score political points for having things pure. And while I'd love everything to be green and great, I'll take pretty good, because that's better than, you know, if I can save X tons of carbon dioxide from being emitted into the atmosphere, provided that there's no huge costs that are associated with it, some costs, but not huge, I'll take it for right now.
So this is Brian. Question. I mean, obviously the carbon that you maybe could generate would be huge to use in agriculture. I mean, carbon is it's a core ingredient for soil moisture and all that stuff. The other thing is, can you go to 100% hydrogen? Is that possible to do that and to, move into that direction, or is there limitations?
Well, for general usage, when you basically you're going to have to move a ton more molecules because they're small, and it's like you need like 3 times as many. So yes, you could do 100% hydrogen. System wide, probably not practical. What it could be practical for is in an industrial park, having an electrolyzer for certain processes. We're still figuring out what hydrogen heating, things like steel, what does that do to the steel if you're using hydrogen to heat it up when you're making plate and things like that. But I do see it at a point in time that you're going to have a blended product coming to an industrial site or an industrial complex of different businesses, and having a really large set of electrolyzers there and delivering to individual industrial businesses pure hydrogen. But if you want to go anything more than 20%, you're going to have to modify burner tips and things like that. So it's probably smarter to use that pure hydrogen where it makes most sense. It may be in aviation, it may be in shipping and things like that. But yes, there's a thing. It is over 20%. Modifications have to be made. Is that helpful? So the key thing is, I talked about our system being really modern. If you all remember your high school chemistry, hydrogen, smallest atom on the periodic table. And that's why our really tight system is super important. It allows, without really any leakage, the hydrogen to be blended in with the methane and not escape. So that's pretty important. And Dan, did I get, I feel free to quiz me up on any more on hydrogen here. I know that there are multiple projects that we're working on. We have to make folks feel comfortable that, people sometimes hear hydrogen and they think, oh God, the Hindenburg, we're all going to die. Well, we want to go ahead.
This is very helpful, Nina. I'm thinking of solar projects where they're pairing it up with batteries, and there are all sorts of issues with batteries in terms of inefficiency and long-term disposal and everything else. If there were any opportunity for pilot projects where we're doing conversion to hydrogen out there with this enormous amount of wind and solar, from an economic development perspective, if there's anything that I can be doing to push that along, please let me know.
Absolutely. And that's where Northwest Natural's not necessarily in the hydrogen creation business, but we are working with a group like this thing called Modern Hydrogen, where we're doing the basically when it creates the carbon black as a byproduct. We're working with them to have them mix that into an area in our system, allowing them to try things out, trying to help them find markets for this carbon black. It's things like that, helping those partners who are trying to advance this technology get integrated into our communities. And I do think over time, you're going to see, just like anything else, you're going to have a waste product and people are going to go, gosh, what can I do with that? Who could use this thing? And we're going to see more and more of that happening. So I appreciate that. And this is really quite a little bit of a Wild West time in the energy business, because we know if we're going to decarbonize the way we need to, we're going to need to do things differently. And so there's going to be a lot of new opportunities, and people are great at finding opportunities and then maximizing them.
Thank you, Nina.
All right, on we go. I think we're getting close here, I promise. So, this is important. This is where I lean into you guys. And you say, you might look at this and go, gosh, what the heck's the problem? You're doing great. You've got all these things going on. It's very challenging. I mean, first of all, people are very focused on climate change. And, the big elephant in the room, frankly, a few slides back, I showed you kind of the breakdown where I showed you our folks are about 5% of the state's greenhouse gas emissions. The big elephant in the room is transportation, frankly. And that's anywhere between 36 and 40 some percent of the state's carbon is coming from transportation. And this again is a little bit Nina. Don't necessarily subscribe this to Northwest Natural, but I think a lot of the political pushback is for you to effectively decarbonize transportation. That's going to take a lot of individual choices. It's each and every one of us purchasing an electric car and all these types of things, where the advocates that are really interested in forcing everyone to electrify, it's easier for them to point to one company that happens to be about fossil fuel company, Northwest Natural, and really hammer on us. And in the past, when we would go to our regulators to like try something, we wouldn't have a huge time of it. Now, if we want to bring something to our regulators, we have to have like all of these people who are prepared to go testify on our behalf. And I have some calls to action kind of at the end here for you. The key thing is we really need to have folks like you who are leaders in the community who understand that energy and decarbonization is not just as simple as clean the grid and electrify everything. That frankly doesn't work, and it's not safe. If you have a power outage, if you're powered down for in the wintertime because of an ice storm, or maybe because of fire danger, you have no energy system. Where if you have our system working to decarbonize, of course, available, you can do things like run backup generation. Hospitals and schools can be used as centers for the community to shelter in place and that sort of thing. So to us, it's really important that we are focusing on that, not just the affordability thing, but the resiliency thing. And frankly, we can put in as many solar panels and all that sort of thing out in Eastern Oregon, but the population center are still in Western Oregon, and that's going to take transmission. And if people think it's going to be easy to permit big transmission lines across the Cascades, I have some swampland in Florida I would like to sell them. So, this is we have to look at this economy wide and really push for common sense type of solutions. And we have to push, frankly, sorry, Bill, we have to push our elected leaders to say, before you do that, show me your work. Show me the modeling where you think that's going to be. What are the costs going to be? Are there other ways we can accomplish this for better costs? So there you go. That's kind of some of the challenges we're seeing, but we're working on it, and it's having conversations. I will say our friends on the electric side have been doing really great work for the past 10 years, talking about, their plans, their pathway, their environmental goals. We at Northwest Natural kind of came late to the party, and because we came late to the party, we didn't get to eat the things on the menu. We were on the menu, and we've been working to get people understand more what that really looks like. So there you go. We can move on but I'm happy to take questions on this too. Okay, so this is kind of part of what I was talking about. We about 4 years ago really embarked on a customer education and engagement. We wanted to understand what our customers thought, and we wanted to give them some information. And the good news is, overall, there's very broad support for natural gas. People value the gas system. They value the energy that they get from it. They value the affordability of it. They also really encourage local governments to pursue looking at, or at least when they make policy, making it in a general enough way that you can have renewables both on the electric and the gas side. It's not, just electrify everything. We can see 78% of folks really would like their governments to make policies that allow the use of renewable natural gas. And overall, folks want to have a choice of the energy that they use for their family or for a particular thing. They don't want one energy system necessarily prescribed to them. So we've done a lot of outreach, continuing to do things like this. Feel free to reach out to Tonya. I know that if you have other places you think that this conversation could be had, we're happy to be there and share this information. But it's important that we have these conversations because we also want to know what our customers think. And if they want us to go harder and faster, we will do so. Okay, I promise we're coming into the home stretch. All right, so this is where I think it's really important to talk to leaders like you guys. And it's when you see your city or your county or another regional government or state agency doing policy work, if there's an opportunity to participate in your climate action task force, I urge you to do that. Because I show up at these things and I'm on probably 5 climate action task forces right now. And it's me as an energy provider, maybe if a partner from the electric utility, and 4 or 5 what I would call forced electrification advocates. So I'm only one voice. And, you know, a lot of people see me as just nothing more than the fossil fuel company shill. And they think I'm saying these things just for my shareholders' bottom line. And really, we know what our customers are saying, but it's more impactful if it comes from people in their local community, an actual customer who says, before you do these things, show me the math on what that's going to do to my energy bill. Show me the math on what kind of decarbonization this policy is actually going to achieve. And we want to hold you accountable. So we're looking for folks to be participating in these. And one of the other things that probably, I mean, I try not to pull my hair out too much, but, you know, cities and counties are stretched. Their staff doesn't have technical expertise to do these climate action plans. So they gather up, you know, a couple $100,000 and they hire a consultant, which could be good if it's a good consultant. But I mean, I will kid you not, one consultant, in their plan to reach decarbonization by 2040 for a metropolitan city here in the Portland region, their prescription included 60 megawatts of rooftop solar in the city. And my colleague who is on the transmission side of the electric company said, guys, you don't have enough rooftops in your city to do that. You can't do that. And then that was coupled with, they also wanted the city to plant 71,000 trees. You know, so it's those kind of, you know, some of these climate consultants aren't grounded in reality. They want to get to the answer that is required, which is carbon neutrality. It doesn't matter if the plan is affordable or even makes sense. So it's really important if you as a city, your county are going to do something, that you ask some really good questions. And thankfully, Tonya and I have some nice questions that you can ask before you hire someone and spend a couple $100,000 on a plan that may or may not have any basis in reality. And then, you know, a lot of policy maker education working, you know, our state legislature right now is about 1/3 new people. And that's a lot of meetings and a lot of education to sharing them where we were, what our plans are, how we're going to get there, and actually showing our work, taking them to Denmark to see where this stuff is already happening, showing them some of our test projects and that sort of thing, getting them educated. But unfortunately, we can't do this alone. We need folks like you to also have these discussions. Okay, on we go. This is just one little aside that's kind of interesting. We talked about energy efficiency. Building codes have been a place that states have tried to make some choices for people about their energy needs. And Oregon right now, the only real big code energy change in the building code currently is that HVAC systems and their ducts all have to be inside conditioned space. No more just sticking it in the garage if your garage isn't insulated and that kind of thing. So that's a pretty important thing. We encourage, to work together with folks to make sure that we have a whole set of folks in our marketing and engineering department that work on state level building codes to make sure, again, that we're making sensible data-based decisions around building codes that protect people's energy choice, the cost of their energy, and still create more efficient homes. So that's that on that. And then I think we have one more slide and then we should be done. Yeah, so this is important. This is where Tonya and I may come back to you in the next, month and a half to talk about the climate protection plan. And I'm just going to throw this really quick out there. I know you've probably heard that some cities in our state have been trying to ban natural gas in their city of Eugene in most in particular. It came from the city of Berkeley. They passed a ban. The California Restaurant Association took them to court. They won. Berkeley sent it up to the Ninth Circuit, a small panel of the Ninth Circuit. And if you know anything about the Ninth Circuit, they're not known for being particularly conservative. They're probably one of the most liberal courts in the United States. And they looked at the Berkeley ban and said, no, you can't do this. This is violating some federal laws about equipment, because if you ban the gas system, then you're basically choosing equipment for people. They can't have these sorts of things. So that got overturned, and Berkeley wanted the whole Ninth Circuit to look at it. Whole Ninth Circuit said, no, we're good. So there you go. And from that, there right now is cities cannot, through the way that Berkeley did it, ban natural gas. So in our state, the city of Eugene did pass a ban on natural gas. In 45 days, the citizens there got 13,000 signatures to force it to the November ballot. Berkeley happened, and the city said, well, there's no point to even have that, and they rescinded it. We're trying to work every day with our cities so that they don't have to do that. We can work with them to help achieve their goals. The next thing that is really important is the climate protection plan. We were in favor of the Cap and Invest program that was going through the legislature a few sessions back. There were some walkouts, and that was not allowed to pass. And so the governor asked DEQ to go ahead and create this climate protection plan through DEQ. And we didn't like how they made the rules, and we were very concerned about the costs. And we took them to court with some others, and the program was overturned on a procedural basis. They didn't do the process right in their rulemaking. And they're now currently doing a rulemaking again. And what I would ask on that is, we are for common sense climate legislation, but we want it to be accountable and verifiable. And so Tonya may be reaching out to you to provide testimony or your opinion about what you expect or what you would like to see in this program. So there you go. I see, Rachel, you have a question?
Yes, I put a message in the chat, but basically going off of what you're saying, and my boss is Chelsea Mars here, so she can always chime in. If you're trying to get people aware of what you're doing and get the community just basically awareness, would you be interested in, because I'm a marketing advisor with Columbia Gorge News, to getting the message out to you that way? Or we have even featured content or even just news. And of course, Chelsea can always chime in because I think she's still here. Yes, she is. But yeah.
With things like that, I would say we're always interested in having conversations. And fortunately, we have a very, very, I would say, skillful and informed communications department. Be happy if you get your information to Tonya. Tonya will go ahead and send it to our comms department, and they always like to have discussions because this is important, and these decisions will have impacts on all of us citizens, whether you're a business owner or you're just looking at your energy bill. So it's important, and the answer to that would be yes. And I'll turn you back to Tonya. She gets to manage those kind of conversations. Phil, I see you had a question.
Thank you. I've been appreciating the conversation very much, and my background, I used to be a chemistry and physics teacher. And so I love following, all the adventures of carbon atoms as they go through a cycle. I'm very much appreciative or sympathetic to the problem that industry faces, in that basically what consumers want is all the benefits and none of the negatives. So we'd like to have electricity cheap. We'd like to have it come to our house. We don't want to see anything that looks like production in our field of sight. So we are, as consumers, asking way too much of what physics and chemistry can offer. We need to start being responsible and saying, okay, if I'm going to get benefits from having electricity and natural gas, I need to also accept the responsibility that, yes, the production is going to be somewhere in my neighborhood, and that I'm doing my part to say, yeah, that I'm producing this, I'm self-reliant, or our community is reliant and produces what we consume. So it's going to take a shift of expectations on part of society that, hey, everything's going to get cheaper, easier, more efficient. We've used up petroleum. Is part of the problem is petroleum was such a perfect source fuel. It's pull it out of the ground. You don't need to just need to refine it, and the energy is there, and the effluent just goes off in the air. It's not like we've learned that we need to pay to get rid of our trash. If we just dumped our trash in the streets for free, we'd say, oh, good, it's cheap, it's free. And that's like what we do with our car exhaust. We just dump it out for free. But it's time that we have to be responsible for both for what it costs to produce electricity and gas, and also what it costs to deal with the waste products. So I'm very much in favor of the work you're doing. Thanks.
I
I'll get
appreciate
off my
that.
soapbox.
No, I mean, I really appreciate that. And that's the sort of thing we're going to need to have really candid, uncomfortable conversations that have data and science behind them. And then we're going to have to make some trade-offs, because like I said, if it's free and easy, we'd be done. But with that, Tonya and I will be back probably with you guys for an opportunity for you to weigh in. This is about the CPP. This is what costs may look like. We're hoping that we can get some changes in from what it was before to a little bit more sensible program that is workable. So this is just kind of giving you a heads up on that. If we have a longer presentation about that, that we, 15, 20 minutes that we can give to any group that you think might need to hear about this before too long. But I'll leave it there. Are there any final questions? I know we're at time. So thank you. And I'll take any final questions, and really appreciate you guys showing up to hear about this dry subject that actually is going to be pretty impactful for most Oregonians.
I just have a quick comment. This is Bill. I heard what Phil said, and Phil is, he talks quite well about different things, but he also has the sense that, yes, you have to put up with some of the unsightly things if you're going to have electricity or whatever. It reminds me back in the old days when people really wanted to have poles everywhere and to benefit. And I agree with him. But, I grew up in a town, Washington, D.C., where for many, many years, they used to have these houses in the neighborhood that were actually power stations, but they made them look like houses so they fit into the community. Well, what is wrong with trying to have a community that really works on having expertise and having things that are important, but using some aesthetics, trying to make it so it's less ugly and make it less impactful for the community? And I don't think there's anything wrong with thinking about that too. So that's important to work on too, as we move towards having more coordination between all of our power systems, so we can have a better environment for everybody. Thank you.
Looks like Tom has a comment.
Comment on Phil's point. Also, you guys talked about how it's important to get in touch with folks like this group, the leadership and government and all that stuff. I think also true is that by making connections with everyone, like it's the broader public that needs to be educated on all this stuff, so that when you actually go to make a decision and to implement a big solution, there's at least a floor of understanding about this stuff so that everybody can, it's not a giant leap to get everybody on board. That's all.
Sure.
And Tom, I would just say you're dead right. And that's why we're really, frankly, and I put myself in the same category before I took this job. My energy literacy was 0. none. And it's complex. And so you're right. It's incumbent upon us to work with you guys, work with our customers, try and really get people's energy literacy to a certain level so they even know what questions to ask their elected officials, or they think about this stuff when they vote. So I know we're at 8:01. You probably have places to go. Lisa, thank you. Group, thank you. If you have questions, get them to Tonya and we'll get you some more answers later. But
Thank you guys. Thank you, Nina, so much for being here. And everyone, I will, when we do the YouTube, put it on our YouTube channel, this presentation, we will attach the slideshow that was with this to that the presentation. So you'll have both. And if you, like she said, if you have any questions, get a hold of Tonya. If you didn't catch that, we have them listed in our directory, and I have her in my email system, and I even have her on my text. So please reach out and we will get answers to you from the right people. So thank you all again. Have a fantastic day, and we will see you next week.
Thanks all.
Thank you.